said something on the order of 2 million people served over what, the last 10 years, is it?
Yes.
Okay. So the important thing, why would I care? Apart from having been a waiter in my youth, what I would care about is you've sold 2 million meals, which I believe, at least for the majority of the time, were with a 635 sales tax,
Correct.
which is revenue to the state. So where I come at this is from the point of view of we've got the tourist destination in the state. It's a little wobbly in terms of traffic congestion. There's pieces that need enhancement to drive the tourism, resolve congestion, and move the state forward, and enhance the experience both of, particularly of the residents, and then of the visitors, because I want to drive to a successful growth of the venue, making it the experience more enjoyable for everyone who's a participant thereof, which is ultimately, as Commerce Chair, what my goal is to drive the revenue for the state as well as enhancing investment and experience. I think we've got a great story going on. I think the aquarium has done a laudable job to date, and I think the Seaport has been a tremendous partner too to the state in terms of the facilities they've done. So now I'm just trying to take us to the next level, and that's kind of my goal. So I assume you've submitted the testimony?
I have with a few exhibits on the back.
Good. Because I want to circulate the testimony. We'll try to figure out within the suggestions what's feasible, doable, and kind of whose responsibility and what time frame that would be, because I'm certainly willing to consider. I think when I look at this principally, the state's role, I would think, would be pretty clearly the state roadway, pretty clearly some of the issues related to the resolution to parking. And then the question is going to be federal, state, and local for the solution of some of the other issues. And I think if we can get even a staged plan agreed to at some point within the next, I don't know, 6 months or a year. If we get a staged plan done, I'm hoping then that we can attack it with revenue sources, which I would say, with a real plan, with buy-in, with structure, you can make an application from the federal government. You can make an application to our bonding commission from the state, and we can see what infrastructure money comes through Safe Streets Acts to try to move that forward. So we'll be looking at it. So I really appreciate your commentary. I wanted to use this venue and this time to kind of set the stages for expectations as we try to move forward, because I want to get to a successful plan that's executable, so I can be proud of the work proud of the work that we achieve as Commerce, even if I got my name backwards. So I appreciate. I don't know if there's any questions for the speaker. Okay.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Harry. Thanks for being with us. And yes, for this very fulsome testimony with the attachments, because as we recognize, members are, back and forth between a lot of other committees, some of which are remote, but so it's really important to be able to, share this testimony with them. And you kind of summarize it by your 4 bullet points. So this has been a real eye opener for me. I've always appreciated Mystic, the Seaport, the aquarium. It is a destination that is a nationally recognized destination, and it's very condensed geographically. And then you couple that with, all of these weather events and so forth. So this working group was in the beginning very scattered shot because there were a lot of players coming into us. There had been a fair amount of work done already. There had been studies by, some of the individual municipalities and so forth. And the task was, as Representative Meskers, has really taken charge here and been our lead on this, is stitching it together and prioritizing it. And then, quite frankly, connecting it to the resources that will most be available and appropriate to, whatever those areas are. And, they span the horizon here with the former Infrastructure Act, the feds, on the state level, our university with the resiliency team and so forth. So the work goes on because, it's been like fact finding, at least for many of us on the committee, and your continuing conversation and presence here about this is very important in continuing to drive it home. And like all significant things, it doesn't happen quickly. So that's the goal. And, like that old Allstate ad, you are in good hands with the leadership of Representative Meskers. So I look forward to, the continuation as we take this logically in a prioritized fashion. Thanks very much for being here this morning, though.
Thank you.
Harry, so appreciate.
Representative Anskovich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So thank you for coming and testifying. So for me personally, obviously, we're not all involved with the task force. We're not all involved intimately in those conversations. So, for me personally, hearing from a business owner in the area and listening to the struggles that you face and having the ideas and thoughts that are coming from you for what may be beneficial to that area, your testimony, like echoing the other comments is good because we can put a set of eyes on it so we can see what's happening. And the important thing is I think the task force and those discussions come about, looking for the funding, because the important thing for all of this is the funding on where we're going to get the money to do the work we need to do. I think we all want to help this area. We all want this area to be successful because it is a great destination. And I think, the task force and those committees and those groups, finding the funding that we can use in order to enhance these areas. So I just wanted to thank you. Your testimony to me speaks volumes because as a business owner there, the struggles that you face and what you think, can improve that area are hugely important. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions? Hearing none, thank you, Harry, very much. Again, it was very useful to have you come.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Joffrey Becker.
Good morning, Chair Hartley, Meskers, and ranking members Martin Anaskovich. My name is Jeffrey Becker. I am with Medtronic, and I lead our state government affairs team in the Eastern United States. Medtronic strongly supports HB 7008, which, as you know, aims to expand the tax credits area for fostering innovation and job creation in Connecticut. By way of some background, I thought it might be helpful. Medtronic just celebrated its 75th anniversary, and we serve all across the globe in medical technology. We currently employ nearly 3,000 people in Connecticut and invest over $350 million in the state's many businesses. And those investments in turn create about another 2,000 jobs. So HB 7008, in our view, helps eliminate a discrepancy in how R&D expenses are treated in the state. Currently, entities structured as partnerships or pass-through entities can take advantage of the R&D tax credits, can't take advantage of them rather, but corporations can. And this inconsistency leads and hinders research being done by those partnership groups, allowing them to claim those credits just as they are in states like Minnesota, as well as neighboring Massachusetts, would help boost Connecticut's research spending. The best example we can give you is our partner, Covidien, who is in Connecticut. Last year spent $136 million on qualified research, but can't benefit from that in-state spending because it's a partner or pass-through entity with Medtronic. And so that's why Medtronic has joined BioCT and CBIA in supporting this change, and we believe it really will improve the research sector in both life science and in the medtech sector. So we appreciate you considering it today, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Not so fast. That was very good. But I wanted to go back a little bit on a rewind. So
Okay.
You're in partnership. So the partnership is basically a pass-through entity, ultimately. Is that what you're telling us?
Correct.
So when the partnership spends money, it doesn't get a tax credit, pass-through tax credit for that.
Yes. Medtronic, when it spends money in Connecticut, and that's the corporation.
Corporation,
It
yeah.
can take advantage of it, but Covidien is the pass-through entity cannot, and Covidien is the legacy partner in North Haven that has not only our surgical tool business as well as our robotics business, and no, it cannot take advantage of that.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was a good clarification. Are there any questions from the committee? No. Well, very good. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. I really appreciate your testimony.
Thank you for your time.
Now, I believe next up, Peter Armstrong will not be available right now. I know he's in meetings in Washington. I can't imagine the experience, but I'm sure he's out there seeking support for the seaport. Following up is Keith Sorensen, Mystic Aquarium. I don't know if we have Keith online or here.
Good morning, Senator Hartley, Representative Meskers, Senator Martin, Representative Anaskevich, and all members of the Commerce Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 7084. My name is Keith Sorensen, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Facilities and Capital Projects at Mystic Aquarium. I'm also a lifelong Stonington resident, and I'm fortunate to have grown up in the village of Mystic. House Bill 7084 will play a pivotal role in fostering the long-term growth and prosperity of the greater Mystic area's tourism and overall economic development. Stakeholders across the region recognize the urgent need for improvements in several key areas, including, but not limited to, enhanced and accessible surface parking, updated and more efficient drainage infrastructure, and greater accessibility through expanded walkways through the downtown district. These vital upgrades would ensure that Mystic remains a thriving destination. Mystic Aquarium is a major asset to Connecticut, ranked among the top 5 aquariums in the country and serving as the state's largest tourism driver. The aquarium contributes over $15 million annually to the local economy through the purchase of goods and services. We also employ more than 270 staff members and engage over 900 community volunteers and 50 interns each year. We also provide free admission to EBT cardholders. While the aquarium plays a significant role in Connecticut's tourism industry and overall economy, challenges such as limited parking, inadequate stormwater drainage, and insufficient walkways hinder its full potential to contribute further. Addressing these issues would enhance accessibility and allow the tourism and hospitality sectors to better serve and engage all of Mystic's visitors. As a prominent destination, we see firsthand how improved roads, better public transportation, and expanded facilities can make it easier for tourists to visit, and more importantly, stay longer. By investing in these upgrades, the state will not only make the Mystic area more accessible, but also create a smoother, more enjoyable experience for travelers. This in turn will create tourism benefiting not just the aquarium, but the entire community, including local hotels, restaurants, retail business, cultural sites. A more accessible Mystic will lead to more visitors, more jobs, and greater economical growth. With these investments, we can ensure that Connecticut remains a top-tier destination, attracting even more visitors and strengthening our economy for years to come. In closing, Mystic Aquarium supports the creation of this working group and is eager to offer input. I urge the committee to support House Bill 708 and continue to champion the policies that will grow the greater Mystic area's tourism and industry, providing positive impact on our community and Connecticut's economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith, for the testimony. I think I'd add just the overlay that when we talk about driving the economy of Mystic, we're talking about jobs for our community and jobs for the residents of the state. We're talking about income tax revenue for those jobs that are created. We're getting sales tax revenue from the activities that are involved their stay. And we're improving the economic, we're driving the economic growth, which drives the state's revenue stream as well, which supports all of our endeavors within the state. So I think you hit the nail on the head, particularly on what are the upside potentiality of reaching a good or perfect or almost good plan, but getting this ball moving forward and getting the right things done. So I appreciate your advocacy. I think I look forward to partnering, particularly with the aquarium and with the seaport, and with the restaurant industry and the municipalities to get an achievable goal in the short term. Again, as I think I said previously, I'm anticipating, as I've had, some further conversations, that we'll have to work forward on the staging of our programs, managing expectations, and doing the magical hunt for federal, state, and municipal support, for all of the things we want to engage in. So you can count on our focus on that, and I think it's so important to have you speak today. I really appreciate that, Keith.
Thank you very much.
Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank Keith for coming this evening as the new representative for the Old Mystic, which is a part of Mystic as a whole. I just wanted to thank you and for coming this evening, and just note that the importance it has on the residents of the 40th District, as it expands into the local economy of the greater New London County region. So I look forward to working, as our distinguished chairman said, to partnering with state, federal, and local municipal dollars and finding solutions to address the issues that you mentioned. Preferably, that comes to mind for me as traffic, and looking for better roads and bridges. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Sorensen, for your attendance today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Are there any other?
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. And I just want to follow on to, once again, reinforce the message that we've been communicating this morning. So this has been before this committee, really, now it's its second round, but it is a significant enterprise subject, and it is, taking some time to really drill down on this and to prioritize it. And as I said, Keith, to our last speaker, that, we're trying to stitch it together, because when it first was brought before this committee, it was pretty fragmented. There had been work done, individually on parts of this, but there really hadn't been, a coming together and a collective prioritization, and then, a blueprint in terms of, going through the number of issues that are here, be they parking, infrastructure, resiliency, the economic and tourism piece of it. So, yeah, things, on the legislative side, sometimes seem to be progressing more slowly and deliberatively, but rest assured that this conversation has been so productive as to bring the Mystic destination to, a real focal point here across the board in the General Assembly. So we are excited about its potential, and however we can help to strategize and craft that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I will just add on my co-chair, what should not be lost on us is we are uniquely dealing with two municipalities, two significant destinations, tourist destinations, being the aquarium and the seaport, a restaurant industry and a hotel industry. And I think the uniqueness of crossing two municipal boundaries, well, it's not an obstacle, but I think the work we get done here and the process we develop here will have applications in other parts of the state to get that kind of regional economic development in focus. And I'm hoping we successfully get to an agreement on the nature of a work group or task force and potentially a consultant to try to flesh out the aspects and the staging of a project. That's kind of what I'm looking towards as I think of this. It's almost, it, as a state representative and from a different part of the state, the benefit is I'm agnostic or not, I haven't got an axe to grind on this other than the successful solution to the congestion, traffic problems for residents, for tourists, for the entities there, the nonprofits and the for-profit entities in the Mystic area. So to the extent we can move that forward, I think it's a good building block, and that's kind of what our goal is here: is to build both a solution, staging, and then potentially a model that we can then, as Commerce, help champion throughout the state to try to build this type of economic focus and development focus as it relates to those experiential issues of tourism. That's kind of our goal. So I just want to let you know that, Keith. And your testimony was very much appreciated. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate all your comments and greatly appreciate your support on this. Thank you.
I love the aquarium. I've had a great time there, so thank you for that. I think the next speaker is Duncan Markovich, unless Lisa's come back on. Okay. I don't know if Duncan Markovich is here to testify. Okay, take it away, Duncan.
Hi, yes, good morning.
Good
There we
morning.
Hi. Good morning, Chairpersons Hartley, Meskers, and respective members of the Commerce Committee. I would like to take the time to add further support for Raise Bill 1403, an act concerning brownfield remediation. And as a former Mystic Seaport waterfront director for their sailing program, I also wholeheartedly support HB 7084 for the Economic and Tourism Plan for Mystic. The protection and environmental stewardship of our planet, country, and state has always been a responsibility for us all, but very few recognize the opportunities for solutions afforded to us through biomimicry. By utilizing systems and processes already inherent in nature, we can apply these developed applications and utilize them in our own society. This bill's research scope, in tandem with the committee's Industrial Hemp Bill HB 6782, present a fantastic opportunity to see just how much of a deeper commitment the state of Connecticut can make to our immediate environment and the very ground that supports us all. According to DEEP's recent June 2024 report, there are almost 1,000 brownfield sites in Connecticut. The phytoremediation properties of industrial hemp are well known and would significantly aid in a cost-effective solution for the necessary soil remediation techniques implemented. I employ that Commissioner O'Keefe and the Department of Economic and Community Development look at the existing body of research in the Department of Consumer Protection's 2014 Industrial Hemp Report, as well as reach out to the University of UConn to collaborate with existing industrial hemp operators and experts to create a robust study on brownfields here in Connecticut and developing innovative means for their successful and safe reversals. As always, I welcome any questions or comments from this committee.
Well, I don't know that I'm going to give you a question, but I'll make the following comment. I think at some level you have an ally in the Commerce Committee in that 2 years ago, in the last biennial budget, we received a budget from the governor with $50 million for remediation, brownfield remediation, and that was $25 million per annum. In the last biennium, so it was actually 4 years ago, I guess. In the last biennium, we increased the allocation to 70 million or 35 per annum. We haven't sat and talked about that yet, but I would anticipate, or I would hope, that as a piece of information, the take-up was 76 million, of which 70 million was spent. We didn't violate protocol. There's 6 million in the pipeline awaiting the next biennium budget. So we had more than 100% demand for those funds for brownfield remediation. So to the extent within our scope that we can foster the brownfield remediation, put properties back on the tax rolls, you have our support. I think the methodology I'll defer to the environment, and I understand your advocacy there. I think, in terms of HEM. So I think you've got our support in trying to increase the funding and the opportunity space, the methods in which it's in, I'm not sure that I'm going to sit there and actually craft language on how remediation takes place, given my academic and experiential background. I think I'll defer to both DEEP and to the DECD on that. But I think I'm happy to see you show up and advocate. I appreciate that. I don't know if there's
Thank
any
you.
questions from the committee. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next up, we have, do we say Amarone or Amarone? Well, it's silent here. In Italy, it would be Amarone, but we'll let you slide. We have Paul from CBIA. Welcome. Thank you, Paul.
Good morning, members of the Commerce Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Paul Amarone. I am a Public Policy Associate and Advocacy Manager at the Connecticut Business and Industry Association. Today, I'll be testifying in support of two bills on the agenda. I'll begin with House Bill 7008, an act concerning a research and development expenses tax credit for pass-through entities. This bill would expand the existing research and development tax credit of up to or equal to 6% of the research and development expenses a small business pays. Currently, pass-through entities or small businesses such as S corporations and LLCs do not have access to the R&D expenses tax credit. This has significantly limited their ability to grow and operate in a rapidly changing economy. R&D tax credits can be even more helpful for pass-through entities than it is for larger corporations, as small businesses do not have the resources needed to expand R&D opportunities, severely limiting their ability to grow and offer the most cutting-edge technology, products, and services for their customers. Expanding the research and development tax credit to pass-through entities will have a positive impact on a small business's ability to offset the cost of hiring additional engineers, scientists, and other professionals, as well as make critical upgrades to equipment and machinery needed to perform everyday jobs. I'll finish with Senate Bill 1402, an act modifying the regulatory flexibility analysis of regulations affecting small businesses. This bill would expand what's required in the current regulatory flexibility analysis prepared by agencies prior to the adoption of a proposed regulation. As currently written, the statute identifies if regulations will have no impact on small businesses or will have an impact on small businesses, but at times fails to identify the negative impact said regulation might have on a small business. This bill would add additional analysis through the regulatory flexibility analysis, including record retention requirements, costs associated with complying with a new regulation, additional employee benefits, notice requirements, and product modifications. By adding these areas of focus to the regulatory flexibility analysis, small businesses would have a more transparent process for understanding the impact regulations might have on them, while state agencies can gain more insight into the impact a regulation might have on a small business. We urge the committee to support both bills, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions from the committee?
Like,
Senator Summers. Do you have a question?
hold on. Sorry, I've been waiting. I just haven't been let in, so I'm finally in. Thanks. I'm not sure what happened.
We are, I guess she wasn't sure what the testimony was if she just got on. So.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
here. I'm sorry. And I don't know what's wrong. I was waiting to get in and it just did not get in. So I went back out and came back in. So I apologize. I finally called my aide to try to call to see what was going on. So.
Okay, so with the Senate bill testimony from CBA in support of 1402.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one, Paul, was
7008.
7008, research and development pass-through credit. So that was CBA was speaking. I don't know if you had any questions on those two for CBIA.
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for being with us, Paul, and actually bringing this conversation forward. I'm referring to the business regulatory analysis. So we're specifically talking about the small business analysis in the regulations review process.
Yes.
Okay, and so right now, it basically checks the box. Will have an effect, I guess, an impact on small business, will not. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think based on the scope of what the analysis includes right now, there are some instances where businesses aren't aware of the negative impact. So some of the additional procedures included in the bill that it would include, we believe, would give more transparency to small businesses if a regulation would have a negative impact on their operations.
And equally important to the legislative body, which is depending upon those analysis to make its decision. You know, some time ago, we went back and we put a municipal impact on there. And truth be known, I'm not always sure that we get a crystal clear analysis of municipal impact, because we find ourselves, you know, on the Monday morning quarterbacking about the effects that it has on small business. And I will point out as an example, the changes in the paid sick time, which, you know, I am now getting calls from my own municipality saying, I'm in a position where I have to take a fire truck offline. And none of that actually was reflected. So, you know, this conversation about crystallizing and focusing these analysis, I think, is certainly pertains to business, but I think it pertains also onto the municipal impact side as well. And so it's important when those reports are given to us, we rely on that information. And so if we're basically getting, you know, a cursory or surface analysis, it's misleading at the very least. So, you know, some of the changes that you have suggested here are, I think, very important. The question becomes the ability for that team to do that kind of analysis. And that's where we're going to, you know, have this, you know, conversation back and forth. So we're going to have to continue to kind of work through this to, I think, come to some kind of a productive conclusion. But I appreciate you bringing this forward to us, because I've kind of had that feeling for some time, actually, when I'm looking on both levels, municipal as well as small business impact. Yeah, and then you're also here for 7008, which we've talked about for a long time. And now we find that the Department of Economic and Community Development is referring us to the governor's budget, which, you know, I'm very happy about seeing the bio R&D in there, but I think that's only a piece of the conversation. And so I haven't heard from the department about that, but we'll have some conversations. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Hartley.
Thank
Any
you.
further questions or comments? Thank you very much. Do we have any other speakers have come back online, Madam Clerk? I think we have finished our speaker list.
Speaker 7 has just logged in.
Yep.
I'm promoting her right now.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa Brandeis.
Lisa, are you ready and available? Lisa?
There we go.
I think we're getting there.
Can you hear me?
I can see you and hear you, so we're in the right place. So you are not least, but last, it looks like, of our speakers. So I have at it, Lisa. Thank you for testifying.
Well, thank you. Good almost afternoon. Chair Hartley, Chair Meskers, Vice Chairs Rahman and Kite, ranking members Martin and Anaskovich, and distinguished members of the Commerce Committee. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name's Lisa Brandis, and I'm a New Haven resident with a PhD in political science from Yale and a 30-year career in higher education. I'm currently researching Connecticut tourism, history, and public policy as a grad student at Southern Connecticut State University. And our son is a Connecticut college student, so we spend a lot of time in the Mystic area and New London. I'm here to support HB 7084, which builds on last session's SA 24-2. I'm looking forward to reading the report, which both seek to enhance tourism and economic development in the greater Mystic area. I support this bill's goals, but I have serious concerns about its narrow focus on just Groton and Stonington. I understand they're important, but I believe expanding the scope would better address the region's tourism challenges and economic development opportunities. Only here in this region can you experience America's largest maritime museum and largest Native American museum, 2 major casino resorts, beautiful beaches, the first nuclear-powered sub, and the last whaling ship. Revolutionary War forts, unique shops, fantastic food like pizza and oysters. But we aren't fully capitalizing on these amazing assets. As you know, despite outperforming neighboring states in tourism's economic impact, Connecticut ranks dead last in tourism funding in the Northeast. This bill should expand its scope to include key areas from Waterford to Westerly as part of its focus. To help address issues like traffic congestion in downtown Mystic. For example, Foxwoods attracts about 8 million visitors a year. If even 10% of them wanted to visit Mystic Seaport or the aquarium that year, that means 800,000 more cars on the streets, since there are no transit options there. A regional focus on tourism and transportation is essential to finding solutions and supporting the economy. Additionally, a broader focus with United Nations definition of sustainable tourism balances economic, social, and environmental impacts. It's key to avoiding over-tourism, which Mystic may be experiencing, and ensuring the well-being of both visitors and residents. So to support this vision, I recommend the working group and this bill consider regional transit options, express buses, shuttles, or water taxis, connecting Mystic to transportation hubs and major tourist sites, as well as expansion of Shoreline East. Yes, Senator Summers, I see you there. SB 714 and 22, which I have testified in favor of. Also, efficient multimodal transit options linking this area to the airports, right? New Haven, Bradley, and Providence through transit so that you can get there and back without a car. Exploring innovative, stable funding mechanisms is the third thing. And I'm suggesting tourism improvement districts. Right now, there's 22 states that have over 209 TIDs that Connecticut is currently not considering, as far as I understand. And it would be interesting to know whether that's on the table as a model. And then I suggest collaboration with statewide initiatives like HB 6881, which asks the DECD to study arts, culture, and tourism for the coming year in Connecticut. So in conclusion, I urge the committee to expand HB 78084 and the working group to create a more regional, sustainable, and collaborative tourism model that will support the growth and businesses of Mystic and Stonington and Groton. And this will benefit both visitors and residents alike and support this economic engine, which, as you may know, about 50% of the tourism dollars, taxes, jobs, and economic impact come from the greater Eastern Connecticut Mystic area. Thank you for your time. I am submitting an online written testimony, and I look forward to any questions or comments you may have.
Thank you very much for your commentary, for your advocacy, for your views on this. They certainly will be taken into consideration. I think I wrestle with the issue of scope.
I know.
I guess two issues. I wrestle with the issue of scope, and I wrestle with the issue of the staging of that. So I don't think that a broader scope at some point is justified. I don't think that, I don't know where we'll go on a focus basis, but I don't think the focus that we bring to the equation at the outset will either exclude or block some of those salient suggestions you make. I think those are valid suggestions about how we weave the tapestry together. I just am trying to figure out how much of the pizza pie I'm going to eat in one sitting. So I'm trying to figure out what's achievable, to be honest with you. And I think I don't have a very robust model to start with within the state. So we are kind of doing the first leg of what I would consider a concerted effort by the legislature to lean forward on development. So there may be some errors, maybe some oversights, maybe some things that we exclude from your point of view. But I don't think that those will be one, I guess, both. If they're intentional, it's because of scope and staging, but I don't think I could sit and pick much or significant amounts of your suggestions and put criticism in front of them. I would just make that as a statement.
Can I respond or is
Well, that
not
was a
appropriate?
statement. I would turn it over now to any of
Okay,
my
sorry, I'll wait
colleagues.
for.
Okay. I just wanted to, I wanted to reassure you that it's not that you're not being heard. So
No,
don't know
I understand that. I'm sort of,
that's
I'm
okay.
trying to push the envelope a little bit.
I realize that. I've sat in that seat myself, so I appreciate that. Do we have any questions or comments from any of the representatives?
Good morning. Hey, Lisa, I think you ought to officially part of our DECD tourism unit. Nice job.
I'm part of the Southern Connecticut State University Tourism Hospitality Department, and we're always looking for research projects, internships. So I and some of my colleagues, I'm sure, would be happy to help in any way that we can in the coming year. I know I've engaged with some of you in the past year with the previous working group, and it's been really rewarding and eye-opening. So anything I can do.
Yeah, and I would recommend you, and not, I'll be explicit, not as a diversion. I think you should have that conversation with the tourism department,
Mhm.
with DECD, and with
Okay.
the COG. I'm not sure, the Council of Government,
Mhm.
because some funding comes through the COG as well. So I'm happy to see your voice amplified. I'm just trying to figure out how to be honest, as we do this, I wrestle with the voices. I think
Sure.
in retrospect, the scope of the first bill was ambitious, and it was an exercise in trying to get a bill to the table and voted on. It was successfully passed. And the working group, it was robust, but my only criticism, and was the orchestra leader, so I guess I'll stand in the mirror and criticize, is that we didn't get to conclusions. And I guess this bill seeks us to get to some actionable items. And I understand that I'm worried that you're taking me back to a more comprehensive plan, which is where I started and didn't get me to any actionable items. So we're going to have to figure out how much is within the scope and how much is in the reach here. You can.
I can drill down. I mean, as a researcher, I'm happy to do what the question asked is.
Okay, perfect. Well, certainly you will be, the clerk will have your contact information. Right now, and I see Senator Sommer. I'll get you in a second, Senator Sommer. I think where we're reaching for is to get to a task force and potentially a consultant to try to finalize the sources of potential funding for some of the activities. So, we'll certainly have dialogue. And I think Senator Summers has her hand raised. So let me give up the microphone and surrender to Senator Summers. Go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. You seem like you are a great resource that we could really use in this massive undertaking of how to manage tourism, especially in one area that spans between two towns, Groton and Stonington. So I wanted to get your thoughts, if I could. There has been obviously some information about Shoreline East, the train service that comes to Eastern Connecticut. And honestly, the reason why ridership is down is because the train is not frequent. It's not on time. You can leave our area at 5 a.m. to get to New York City, but you can't get back. So it's not reliable. It's not really what you would consider, a commuter kind of rail in our neck of the woods. And that coupled with over the past years, there's been funding cuts. So now it's at 40% of where it should be. So we are fulfilling our own prophecy of less trains, less consistency of trains, less ridership. It's like the circling the drain, I'll call it. But I wanted to see, I really think that this has some potential, and I wanted to get your thoughts with your background on what it would look like if the state was to make an investment to bring additional trains Friday evenings between Memorial Day and Labor Day to Mystic from New York and Boston, and then additional trains leaving the area Sunday in the evening, going back to those locations, but giving us enough time to be able to market that in the appropriate way. So we're not getting the funding and then it fails because no one knows that this is available. I really think that would be number one. It gets cars off the road, and we're really concerned about carbon emissions and cars being on our roads and our freeways and congestion. And nobody wants to drive to Connecticut from New York on Friday night because it takes you 3 hours from Greenwich to get to the Rhode Island border, if not longer. And it also would help alleviate this massive, and I cannot underestimate the massive parking problem that we have in this area. Living here just Tuesday night, I tried to take my elderly father downtown. Yes, it was Mardi Gras, but there's no place to park, even during the off season. So what are your thoughts on that as far as a way to touch on parking, touch on, reducing emissions and making a more pleasurable experience for people that want to come to Mystic? And if you get off at the Mystic Depot, you literally can walk everywhere if you wanted to. So could I get your thoughts on that, please?
I mean, first I'll say I've already testified in written form in support of SB 714 to restore Shoreline East service. I don't know where that's going to go, but it has importance not only for the shoreline and the greater New London and Mystic region, even if it doesn't extend to Mystic regularly. But I'm on the board of the Shubert Theater. People can't come to the Shubert at night and take the train in and out from whatever. And the same is probably true for the Guard, right? People can't go to shows or to concerts and or to events that are in the evening because Shoreline East doesn't operate like Metro North, which allows you to come and go, not just for commuting, but for leisure, pleasure, these things. So I would say I'm a big advocate for train. I'm a big advocate for intermodal connection. So I love your idea. It's SB 22. Is that the bill for the additional, I call seasonal Shoreline East weekend service? I think it would be great. I know that there are other places that either run a shuttle from a ferry to the downtown. I know that I believe Cape May does this. People come in off the ferry. We have a great ferry in New London. You could run a shuttle there. You could run a train. I've heard people talking on the Shoreline East advocacy group about which train you would have to run to get it to show up at the Mystic station, because that's an issue because of the levels, but I'm sure they can work out. But yes, I think people knowing there's adequate trains, and for many people, riding the train or a little tourism trolley with a narrator, or a cute little express bus that gets you from A to B, or New London's water taxis, which are going to be expanding New London to Groton this summer. They're going to the sub base, to the new dock there, and to Fort Trumbull and downtown New London. People like the experience of riding transit, right? Or riding unique modes of transportation. especially if they're reliable and affordable, which Shoreline East surely is. So I would say that's a great idea. You could even start from just, greater New Haven. Yes, you want to get people from New York and beyond as part of our market, but I don't know what the numbers are, but probably something like 30% of the people that visit Mystic are from Connecticut, especially farther down the road that way. So you could certainly do that. I'm happy to testify in support of SB 22. I think parking is an issue. We do know that New London has gotten $17 million to invest in their new transportation hub. So in the short term, using that as the place to have people park or the place to have people get off the ferry and get off the train, and then have either a train that goes not quite back and forth, or a shuttle bus or something that's direct. Right now, I've tried to take the train from downtown New London to Mystic, from New Haven to downtown New London, where see my son or go visit some of your wonderful attractions. It takes me like 35 minutes to get to downtown Mystic on the regular transit bus, right? There should be some sort of either a train that goes through or an express bus that is like this, like a tourism bus that deals seasonally. Connecticut DOT and the Parks Department are partnering in the same way on something called Park Connect. Are you familiar with that? Right now, that takes you from a transit hub, New Haven, New London, Old Saybrook, to a major park. And that could be the same model. And that last mile or two is usually a shuttle bus that connects to a train. It'd be great if there was a train. I would love to see that happen. I'm all in for trains, having ridden them all over the world. I'm also big on getting connections to airports. I would love to have my son and his colleagues and classmates be able to take the train from Connecticut College, from the Coast Guard Academy, from Old Saybrook, from Mystic, get on the train, go to New Haven Station, and jump on a shuttle bus or a quick ride and go to Tweed, New Haven, and it's 35 destinations. I think we need to promote those seamless transportation intermodalities. And so whether you're talking about a train that goes all the way through, which I'd fully endorse, I think you could even encourage people to leave their cars in New Haven, right? And ride Shoreline East all the way. Obviously people in New York and Fairfield County. I don't know how it would work to take a train from Grand Central all the way to Mystic, other than Amtrak. I mean, I don't know if the train sets we have work, but that's something I think for our Connecticut Rail folks to tell us. But yeah, that would be great. But if not, what if you use New Haven as the hub? Come park in New Haven. There's ample parking, particularly on weekends. Certainly getting people off I-95 and off Greenmanville Avenue and that exit. I've been stuck there trying to just get into downtown Mystic, and it's not fun. I tried to go to Port of Call one night when I was visiting my son afterwards. It was great, lovely place. It took us like 20 minutes to find a parking spot in Mystic. I would have loved to have parked somewhere else, as I think the big picture is, and taken a shuttle or, had a something like that. So
let me ask you one more thing here, and I don't want to, keep you here for too long. Speak to me about the idea that we have been wrestling with in this committee to have, if somebody's taking their car, they get off of 95, and I will say, we're going to have the Mystic Irish Parade in Mystic on the 23rd. There will be 50,000 people in this little sleepy town. And the traffic backs up to the Gold Star Bridge because you can't get off the exit. It's that congested. So what if we had an opportunity to have a centralized parking area and we were able to move people around by water taxi? That's something that's been a priority of mine. I spent my career mostly in the Nordic countries, and everybody gets around in Denmark either on a bike because it's flat, or they get around by water taxi. And it's a totally different experience. As a visitor, you get to be on the water, you get to see it, and it's very efficient. So could you speak to that, what your thoughts are?
I know the committee. I followed the previous year's committee all fall and went and sat through or watched all of the things and read all of your reports. So I know what some of the issues were. I'm thinking of as a model, if you look at Newport, Rhode Island, right? Newport, Rhode Island is a historic, highly seasonal, highly populated, very compact historic district, much like downtown Mystic. And it was able to build a tourism improvement district. I know that's a funding and tax question, but with that, they were able to build a central parking garage that also had the tourism information center. It had a bunch of bus bays for both coach buses for long-term trips, as well as transit buses. And they have a shuttle, like a tourism hop-on, hop-off bus that was, interestingly enough, if you parked in the garage and you rode the shuttle around downtown downtown Newport, sorry, again, sponsored by the Discover Newport Tourism District. If you rode their free hop-on, hop-off shuttle to all the houses and attractions and beaches, you got a voucher for $5 parking. So there was an incentive to take transit. And so when I visited Newport these last 3 times in the last 2 years for conferences, we just left our car in the garage, right? We never used it in Mystic. We even used that shuttle. Again, it runs seasonally, but it was April through October. So that was pretty good for us. So yeah, I would say whether it's a water taxi that's attractive or a hop-on, hop-off shuttle. I have studies on all these things that I did last semester, if you'd like me to share them with you and the committee going forward. So
Okay, thank you so much. That would be great if you wanted to share that information with the committee. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you for your time and involvement and interchange with me. I appreciate it. This is my second career being a public advocate and
You're doing great.
and researcher. So we've got a lot going on in Connecticut and people need to know about it. So.
Well, thank you very much. Any further questions? Seeing none? Up. Go ahead, Representative.
Thank you, Chairman Meskers. I want to thank you coming, Ms. Brandeis, and testifying on behalf of us today. As the representative of the 40th District, I was super glad that you mentioned the ferries in New London, which is part of my district. In past, the ferries in New London used to offer, and in partnership with the casinos, they would transport people from Long Island coming to visit the casinos, and it was just right off. Once you got right off the ferry, you'd hop on the bus and head over to the casinos. Possibly reimagining something with that. And then also when it comes to Greater Mystic, and expanding Shoreline East, I know my esteemed colleague Senator Summers mentioned SB 22. There's also SB 1018, and then I also there is a bill. Actually, I'm sorry, mixing up my bills. SB 714 is the restoring of Shoreline East. SB 1081 is the study that's in the Transportation Committee to do an economic study in the area and the Mohegan Pequot Bridge. So I do want to know your thoughts on expanding the seeing what the partnership would kind of look like in your ideas between our casinos just to the north of us and then in Greater Mystic, and kind of having that impact. I kind of view it as a circle, as a little bit. So I just want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, from a tourism standpoint, you want people to circulate, right? You do want them to spend money and stay in hotels, but you want them to go to less visited sites to disperse the crowds, but also to disperse and to share the economic benefits, so that we have the greatest, largest Native American museum in America, and it gets 50,000 visitors, right? It should really get more, but there's not a lot of promotion and not a lot of interaction. But you can imagine people from elsewhere, particularly Europe, they're super interested in Indigenous people. They would love to go to Mystic Seaport, the Mashantucket Pequot Museum, the aquarium, dine in downtown Mystic, maybe go to the Coast Guard Museum or Fort Trumbull or the Sub Museum. People are interested in all these things. So having intermodal connections. I will tell you two things. One, I tried to get to the Eastern Connecticut Tourism Conference, which was 2 weeks ago, and I was invited to that. And it was at Mohegan Sun. I wanted to take Shoreline East, right, from my house at 6 o'clock. It would have got me in New London at 7:08. The one bus from New London train station would have left at 7 a.m. So I would have had to stay another 52 minutes till the next bus to the Mohegan Sun left at 8 o'clock. So there's not even interconnectivity among our trains and our regularly scheduled transit buses to get workers, people, visitors to these places. And that's a problem. The second thing is, I was trying to do research last semester on the Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods, and I looked at their website. You used to be able to take a bus from New Haven and go straight to the casinos, and they would give you some vouchers and stuff. Those don't exist anymore. And I looked on their website. There was no information about transit, how to get there if you didn't have a car. So I sent them one of those, excuse me, emails, say, would you mind putting information about Shoreline East and blah, blah, Amtrak and bus, because they're not thinking about this. So, whether they're interested in having people stay in their place, but also enjoy the other parts of the area, the people might stay longer and gamble longer and stay in their hotels longer if there were more things around them to do. So I totally agree with you with that. But I also think having, like you said, many places have a seasonal bus from the ferry, which may or may not be right where the tourism action is. You can get off and go to New London and go around there, but you can't, again, it's about a 35-minute ride if I wanted to take the Southeast Area Transit bus from New London Station to, I think it gets me to a bus stop at the corner of the highway near the aquarium. And that's about as close as it gets, right? I can't even get to the seaport. So having those kind of transit options to get people from where 1.5 million are coming off the trains and the ferries every year into the tourism areas where we want them to be, I think that's important and efficient, as well as great for emissions and no parking.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Ms. Brandeis, for your testimony, and I look
Thank
forward
you for
to
your
further
work.
discussions. And Mr. Chairman,
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Representative. So that was a rather robust back and forth with the questioning.
Senator Summers has her hand up.
Senator Summers for the third time. Go ahead.
Is it the third time? I'm sorry. I appreciate the third time. I thought this was only my second time, but I'll be quick. I just wanted to sort of reiterate what you said, which I think is a really important piece. Years ago, we used to have, I would say, more buy-in from the casinos because I think there was more funding available from them to be able to promote the casinos. And if they have 50,000 visitors a year for the Native American Museum, which is top notch, it's unbelievable. If people haven't seen it, they should go. It's just beautiful. And it is historical. It's unbelievable. It's an amazing museum. The aquarium gets 800,000 people visiting it. 45% of them are from out of state. So we are really attracting a lot of people from New York and Boston and Pennsylvania. And there is a push. I heard somebody say Circle years ago, the seaport, the aquarium and Old Mystic Village, we used to call it the Golden Triangle. That was where everyone would come. And that really could use a transportation hub. I know we have one in New London, but there still is, the ferries that run are wonderful. A lot of them are commuters. You're getting people from New York that are coming in, going to Boston. And there used to be much more service where there was trains available then to push people out, mostly to the casinos. I mean, the casinos years ago used to have buses coming from the Bronx where people would get vouchers and you actually kind of almost got paid to go to the casino and gamble. And that I think has pretty much, not totally dried up, but it has really changed. And maybe that's because they don't need to do that any longer. You know, I don't know the reasoning behind it, but I do think that there is an opportunity for us to work. And I think this is what this committee is doing, to work with all of the different tourism drivers within our region. I do think, you know, New London may have a a transportation hub, but you know, there needs to be more focus there for people to want to go to New London for tourism. You know, they have a beautiful beach at Ocean Beach that probably is not really that well marketed, so people don't know about it. But I think too, the Mystic area really warrants a transportation hub. And I can envision coming off of 95, exit 91. There's this hotel there that I would love the state to get. You could park there and you could disperse everywhere. You could go by water taxi, you could go by trolley. We could also showcase all of the things like the museum, the Nautilus Museum, all these things that are these untouched gems. If you haven't been to the Nautilus Museum, it's this wonderful museum. It's free, it's open to the public. You can go on the USS Nautilus and tour it. All those things are sort of untapped potential. And I don't want to ask you now, but maybe you could get back to us. How would you approach this? Like, what would your steps be to sort of look at this widely large and expensive, but way to sort of take really systematic and intentional approaches to deal with this? I mean, some of these bills I've been putting in for years. And if they're going to do an economic impact on Shoreline East, we're going to fail miserably because we are the most subsidized line of the train service here in the state of Connecticut because of the way that you can't get from point A to point B in a reasonable amount of time. So we don't ride it. So I, you know, if you have any ideas on that going forward, I'd love to see them. And that's all I have. Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome very much. Seeing no further questions, next up is Carmen Sainz. This will be live. You're going to hit the red button. Carmen, just so you know the ground rules, in the prior conversation, the back and forth is on the back of questions from the committee members. No, hold on. No, I appreciate. You will have 3 minutes for your commentary unless there are questions, okay? So I'm okay. Okay.
Where I was born, Puerto Rican.
Thank you,
All
Carmen.
right, you're welcome. I love the Connecticut flag. Let me try to figure this out. Oh, I'm a military baby too. Oh, I'm from Connecticut. UConn, Dunkin' Donuts, but I drank a Starbucks today. Well, I gotta press a button.
No, you are on and live. You're being broadcast right now.
Okay, let me.
And your 3 minutes is starting now. It wasn't before, so don't worry. But you are live.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of Connecticut, Puerto Rico, and America, universe, UConn universe. Amen. Hallelujah. In Jesus' holy name I pray. All lives in a rainbow. Could you get rid of that Black Lives shit on the floor? It's all lives in a rainbow, or put good swastikas from China with rainbows. That's a problem. We don't like it. The
Carmen,
Klan flag over there
Carmen,
in the
Carmen.
Hartford mayor's office. Just put a
Carmen,
Puerto Rican flag with a Tweety bird.
Excuse me,
Or
Carmen.
put more swastikas. With
Excuse me,
colors.
Carmen.
Okay, sorry.
The issue is to speak to the bills in front of us
Okay,
today.
I'm ready.
Okay.
You could pass all these. And
Okay.
bring the whalers back. Amen. Hallelujah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your testimony. Seeing no further questions? Thank you for your testimony.
The Puerto Rican flag goes in Hartford with a Tweety bird.
Now, nobody else to speak.
As we have no other bills before us and no other speakers, I will bring our